The IEC in the Western Cape says the process of voter registration went smoothly with no major glitches being reported. Provincial Electoral Officer Michael Hendrickse says 1,577 voter registration stations opened on time yesterday. Hendrickse says many opted to register online. Now, SABC News reporter Vanessa Poonah tells us more about what's happening today. Vanessa, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live. First of all, tell us exactly where you are and what's happening there.
Yes, a very warm good morning to you on a rather cool day in Cape Town this morning. We are at Joe Slovo Park. It's an area in Milnerton in Cape Town. And yes, the wooing of eligible voters continues today with political parties out in full swing on this last day of voter registration. At the moment, the Democratic Alliance is in Joe Slovo. They'll embark on a walkabout in the area. Now, this Ward 4 is indeed a DA ward. We know that in the 2016 municipal elections, of the 15,500 almost registered voters, over 9,000 came out to cast their ballots. Of course, a 60% plus turnout in the previous municipal elections. Joining me is the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, in terms of exactly what their message is in this ward and also in Greater Cape Town. John Steenhuisen, a very warm good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you.
So just in terms of your plans today, you are in Joe Slovo Park. We know that this ward is a DA ward. There has been some issues, though, in terms of the firing of the previous ward councillor, and also lots of issues here. One of the main issues in this broader Milnerton area is, of course, the sewage issue. I know you'll be visiting another area in Milnerton just now. Let's talk about how voter registration, what have you accomplished and what are your aims today in terms of getting those voters to register?
Well, we're very pleased with the outcome yesterday. We were able to get a significant turnout of the people that we were contacting, getting them registered, getting them to go to register and getting them online to register as well. So we're very comfortable where we're at the moment. Obviously, there's going to be a final push today. This will be the last chance people have to really get registered for the local government elections. And as you say, local government elections are important because they encompass all of those things that have a direct impact on your life as a voter. The roads you drive on, the water and electricity that you use, street lights and economic development. So it really is important that people do register for this, even braving the weather to do so.
So we know that you are taking a walkabout just now in Joe Slovo itself. I mean, just driving into this area, the conditions seem squalid in places. We know that in previous months and years we've been in this area. One of the big challenges I've mentioned earlier on is the sewage problem. People have been talking about the sewage, the water pump stations here, and also the impact, the ecological impact on the nearby Milnerton Lagoon. You know, I know there's a 10-year plan in terms of the city at the moment. Talk to us a bit about how this will impact residents now in the nearer future.
Well, of course, and as you can see from where we are, there's a lot of pressure on the system. There's been a lot of informal settlements springing up, and obviously that puts a lot of pressure on the infrastructure. A lot of stuff being thrown into the storm water drains, sewage infrastructure that's failing because it cannot deal with the pressure of the number of people. It was never designed to deal with the number of people it's going to have to do. So the city's got a plan now, and something that the mayoral candidate Jordan Hill-Lewis has been very passionate about is a big infrastructure build in the city. We're going to have to put a lot more focus on making sure that infrastructure has the capacity to deal with the fact that people are coming to the Western Cape in big numbers. It's always better where the DA is, and so it's natural that people would tend to gravitate towards governments that deliver and where there's employment opportunities. And unfortunately, that also comes with the fact that it puts pressure on your systems. So the city's going to have to really up its game in the next 5 years to roll out that infrastructure. That's why our election slogan is Cape Town works, but let's do more, because there's a lot more that we can do to turn this into a real world-class city.
So, Mr. Steenhuisen, at the moment we are standing in front of the Joe Slovo Sport and Recreational Facility. It's a voting station. You mentioned earlier on that there were some challenges at the Milnerton High School with regards to opening on time. Tell us about what you've experienced in terms of the timeless opening of voting stations on this final day of the final registration weekend.
Well, look, I think it's been a bit more lackadaisical than it was the day before. Milnerton, according to our local people, had not opened yet by 20 past 8:15. Apparently the voter management devices hadn't arrived, and the presiding officer had left the premises to obviously try and find out where these things are. So not ideal. There were apparently voters waiting to register. They were turned away. So it's not an ideal situation, but the IEC is going to have to really focus, particularly in the election period, to make sure that their voting stations open on time, they have all the material, because otherwise people are going to go away and the chances of them returning to a voting station are going to be next to nothing.
Update on the Constitutional Court matter.
Well, of course, we've got the judgment very late last night. Our lawyers are busy looking at it. We maintain that the IEC has done the ANC a favour by reopening the candidate nomination processes when that was denied to the IFP and the NFP in elections past. But obviously we'll have to study the judgment. It's 127 pages long. Our lawyers are looking at it today, and we will obviously have a more formal response a bit later in the day. But our challenge to the IEC opening the lists continues.
Mr. Steenhuisen, thank you so much for your time. John Steenhuisen there, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, on a final push this morning here in the Milnerton area to get as many eligible voters onto that voters roll before it closes. For the balance of today, we will be focusing on the processes unfolding with regards to online registrations, people visiting these sites, and we'll be checking in with the IEC here in the Western Cape a little later on in terms of any challenges they may have. We've heard from Mr. Steenhuisen. Apparently, according to the DA, at least 2 voting stations did not open on time. I'll get confirmation on that from the IEC. I know that yesterday they did say there were some challenges with a tent. For example, one of the 38 temporary structures in the Paarl area, which had some challenges with the wind impacting that there. They were talking about some challenges around access at UWC and these what they called minor glitches to the opening of all 1,577 voting stations. We'll come back to you a little later on with more of that information on this final voter registration weekend day here in Cape Town.
Vanessa, we'll definitely catch up with you a little later. Thank you so much for that update. That was our reporter Vanessa Poonah speaking to us live from Cape Town.